This is the DAR Today podcast, and I'm your host, Brooke Bullmaster Stewart. This is a podcast where we talk about what DAR members are doing today in your communities, in your states, and honestly, around the globe. In fact, what did you think about that segment last week where we talked about what daughters who live abroad in other countries, what they do with their DAR chapters? You'll want to stay tuned, I think, for next week as well when we discuss specific events that certain Units Overseas chapters are doing. It'll be a lot of fun. And to get notified about that new episode of the podcast, you'll want to subscribe to this podcast and also hit that notification bell to be alerted. Now, you could also go on our members' website and to the DAR Today podcast committee page and sign up for those emails. We send them out once a month. And in those, we have the links to all the previous month's episodes. So be sure to do that. So what did you think about that eclipse? Wasn't that something? For those of you who were in the path of totality, what a special treat you had. I'm sure like I did, you saw many photos and videos of that. And were you one of those daughters who went out to travel to those places where it could best be seen? We're going to have some neat stories today from people who did just that. We also have some continued updates about what our chapters are doing to ready their communities for that 250th birthday of America. I think these stories could inspire us all as we think about ways in which we all could contribute to this. We'll also have another segment in our Hall Pass series as we explore the different areas of our DAR buildings there in Washington, D.C., this time heading to the Historian General's office. And when I think about my visit there to that office, and this all ties in together, one of our main objectives as DAR members is to honor our patriot ancestors. And it's really heartwarming to hear some of the ways in our stories today, ways in which daughters are doing just that by beautifying and taking care of some of these wonderfully significant grave sites. And I was happy too when reading that Daughters Online community recently that I saw a post from member Josephine Hess who reminded us of the document we have, the information we have as DAR members about how to properly clean and take care of these important gravestones. We'll have a link to that document in the show notes today. But speaking of that Daughters Online community, oh my goodness, shout out to Kate Johans and Deirdre Williamson in the Public Relations Committee for that incredible space. It continues to be more and more fun and grows larger every day. What a neat place to go and find out what's happening with DAR members today. So awesome. But let's jump right into this episode today with our Hall Pass series. And again, hey, thanks so much for being here with us today. So we're going to go into the office of the Historian General now, and let's see what they do inside. Okay, let's go.
Hi, good morning. Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Brooke. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Genevieve.
Oh, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Good
too.
morning.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Brianna Zeppa.
Oh, Brianna and Genevieve. What do you guys do here in this office of the Historian General?
Well, actually, I process DAR historical commemorative markers, America 250 markers, and I also assist the Historian General with Outstanding Teacher of American History Award and the History Award Medal.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so great to meet you because we always talk to you guys, right?
Yeah.
What do you do, Genevieve?
And I work with the Revolutionary War grave marker applications and also help people with the member grave markers. And we actually have a bunch of these up here on display right now if you'd like to take a look. Yes, this is a DAR insignia member grave marker and they're actually available from the authorized vendors around the country. But we assist them with the process and we tell them what forms they need. And how they can get these markers here.
Oh, those are beautiful. Oh, so when people talk to you, this is who they're talking to.
That is right.
And then so for these as well, tell me about these.
Here are examples of DAR historical and commemorative markers. These markers recognize people, places, and events. They may include the DAR insignia, and they can really be in any size that you want. It could be as small as a foot, it could be larger than that, it could be a large monument. We can pretty much do any type of DAR historical commemorative marker in any size.
How busy are you right now?
Very busy.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. It's so great to finally put a name with a face.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We as DAR members have really taken up the challenge to ready ourselves and our communities for the celebration of America's 250th birthday celebration. Chapters and states present activities and events that they've had to our America 250 National Committee. And here are some recent highlights. We hope they inspire you with ideas and thoughts about what you might do as well. The Valley Forge chapter in Pennsylvania installed a little free library at Montgomery Country Practice Center, a medical facility in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Deb Stilley planned and coordinated the project, and a label noting that the books were donated by the chapter was added to each book. 4 different bookmarks were designed and one placed in each book. These highlighted the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, First Continental Congress, the battles of Lexington and Concord, and the Declaration of Independence. What a great ongoing way to remind those in your community about our patriots and what the DAR is doing today. The Manor House chapter in Washington, D.C. is utilizing their America 250 celebration grant to clean and beautify the grave of Captain Benjamin Birch, the patriot of their founding regent, Mrs. Frances Minnie Ballinger. On a rainy Saturday in October 2023, Manor House daughters gathered for the first cleaning of Captain Birch's grave as their day of service project. With cleaning supplies purchased from the DAR store, they were able to remove lichen buildup. The link, by the way, for that grave cleaning kit is below. Along with cleaning this patriot's physical headstone, they removed weeds that had grown around the base. The Manor House chapter will have another grave cleaning this month and officially mark Captain Birch's grave in May. The Estahakee chapter in Florida had a wonderful event with help from the Brattleboro chapter in Halifax, Vermont, to celebrate our nation's 250th birthday. The project involved making and dedicating new gravestones on newly discovered grave sites of Patriot Stephen Otis and wife Lucy Chandler Otis, having an incredible event there too in Halifax. More than 75 people participated in the events. Included was the Otis gravestone dedication, a hike to the Otis homestead, demonstrations of colonial-style slate carving, tribal crafts, and more. So many in the community were involved in this special ceremony as well. There were remarks given by a pastor and also by a local tribal leader. A member of the Halifax Historical Society talked about the history of the town. DAR member Carol Otis spoke about the long yet rewarding story of finding these grave sites of her patriot ancestors. Of course, so many DAR members were present, along with a color guard to aid in the program. The town of Halifax became much more aware of her history that day. The funds from the America 250 grant helped pay the cost of beautiful new gravestones, and carving these stones took 2 years, working with a professional stone carver and designer using colonial-era style and techniques, making them as historically accurate as possible. These stones are New England slate and were carved by David Gillespie of Pumpkin Town Primitives, who attended the event and demonstrated his techniques. You can read about so many of these stories about what chapters and states are doing to celebrate America 250 by looking on the America 250 committee page on our members' website. Inspiring and fantastic stories all, and I would encourage you to visit that page. We can't wait to hear what all of you are doing. Our DAR members are an adventuresome bunch, so when something historic like the sun being eclipsed in such a way that it's a major occurrence and one considered by many an event not to be missed, well, many of our members go and seek it out. A few daughters recently shared their stories with me, and we want to tell you about them. Tennessee DAR member Julie Breimer used the eclipse as a reason to finally visit the grave of her third great-grandmother, Julia Ann Wisdom Willett Randolph. This ancestor left White County, Tennessee in the 1890s and moved to Franklin County, Arkansas with her second husband, P.M. Randolph. Julie knew that her grave existed because it was on findagrave.com, but there was no photo. So she made the 7-hour drive to that cemetery where her grandmother is buried. She arrived early enough to do most of the cleaning before the eclipse started. Julie mentioned, after sending us some photos of the gravesite and the eclipse she witnessed while she was there, and I quote, It's really hard to take photos of something you aren't supposed to look at, but the cemetery was very isolated, and the reaction of the wildlife during the eclipse was amazing, end quote. Thanks for sharing your story, Julie. For Jill Scott, she recently recalled, 4 friends left Tennessee early to find a parking place in Arkansas. We arrived at a ballpark. As we watched the moon moving, we felt the weather getting cooler, and finally, at totality, it turned very dark. The lights at the stadium came on. Then, as the sun emerged, the weather began to get warmer. It was an enlightening event. For member Mary Kate Eckerd, she relayed the following story of her experiences with the eclipse, and I quote, "This past weekend, my grandmother died. My husband and I had planned to visit my cousin and her family in Little Rock for the eclipse, and of course, we considered changing our plans with this news. Well, we ended up gathering in my cousin's backyard, having a barbecue on the patio, hanging out, having a good time with her and her family, who played some music on their guitars after everything was finished with the eclipse. It was just a chill afternoon, especially after such a stressful couple of days," end quote. A solar eclipse is one of the most amazing spectacles in nature, and I don't know if you knew this, but there was a major solar eclipse during the time of the Revolutionary War. And depending on whom you asked in early America, an eclipse could be a scientific, a religious, or even a political event. Thomas Jefferson was thrilled about the solar eclipse of 1778. Though it happened during the Revolutionary War and some thought that it was prophetic, Jefferson cared less about what the eclipse symbolized than what the data would reveal. In the late 18th century, many American maps remained frustratingly inaccurate, one reason being it was difficult to accurately measure longitude. But eclipses offered a rare opportunity, as careful measurement of an eclipse could allow you to calculate your longitude more precisely than other available methods at the time. Well, Jefferson was an avid amateur astronomer. He planned to observe this 78 eclipse from Monticello and compare his measurements with those of several other Virginians. But when the day of the great eclipse arrived, it proved to be cloudy at Monticello and much of the rest of Virginia. He also found that his equipment was insufficient. Reverend James Madison, president of William and Mary College in Williamsburg, reported his measurements about the eclipse's end to Jefferson. His account contained a summary of his experience, and I quote, "You could not determine your most intimate acquaintance at 20 yards distance. Lightning bugs were seen as at night." And he concluded, "There was really something awful," and by this term he meant awe-inspiring, "in the appearance which all nature assumed," end quote. Well, a few years after the war, another eclipse happened that tied in with Thomas Jefferson as well. Benjamin Banneker was a free black tobacco farmer in Maryland who was fascinated by the sky. Over the years, he taught himself to be an astronomer, and in April of 1791, while working actually as a surveyor in Washington, D.C., he observed an annual solar eclipse and sketched a diagram of it in his journal. Now, the most popular book in 18th century America, other than the Bible, was an almanac, and as many of you know, that almanac centered, among other things, on an astronomical table predicting the movements of the sun, moon, and planets in the sky. Well, Banneker ended up publishing 5 editions of his own almanac, and it's exciting to note that he correctly predicted an annual solar eclipse that would be visible in the United States on March 22nd, 1792. But back in 1791, he shared a copy of his almanac with Thomas Jefferson. Noting that it was the result of arduous study, Banneker used this proof of his own genius to challenge Jefferson's racial prejudices. Banneker noted that his own astronomical accomplishments suggested that all races had been given the same faculties. Indeed, Banneker's letter quoted back at Jefferson his own recent assertion in the Declaration of Independence that, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." Well, he sounds like an amazing and brilliant man, doesn't he? But these are remarkable stories all. When these major earthly and celestial events take place, it shakes things up a bit, doesn't it? We start to look outside of our daily lives and take stock of the world around us. The eclipse eclipse of June 1806 leaves us with our quote today by a brilliant, passionate woman named Mary Avery White from Massachusetts. She was a committed abolitionist who organized a local female anti-slavery society. She wrote in her diary on the day of the eclipse, "Pleasant morning, total eclipse of the sun, and the stars twinkled at noonday. Wonderful are the changes of nature, but more astonishing, the wonders of redeeming love." Well, thanks for listening and be well, dear friends. Let's celebrate the stars and stripes forever and remember, with all of your ancestors behind you, you are the result of the love of thousands. This podcast was written and produced by our incredible team of writers and editors, and we are, as always, so grateful for President General Pamela Rouse Wright and Historian General Suzanne Heskey for their constant guidance. To Deb Stilley and Christine Janzik, Lena Hoffman, and Carol Otis, Sally Neems, and Gigi Twist, and Carolyn Handy for the America 250 events. And a special thanks in that segment to David Gillespie for permission to use his video. To Brianna and Genevieve in the Office of the Historian General, you two are so sweet and kind. To Julie Breimer, Jill Knight, and Mary Kate Eckert for being so generous with their time. And grateful thanks today to the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation for its wonderful compilation of stories about the eclipse. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children. Members are all lineal descendants of those who supported the cause of independence in the Revolutionary War. For more information, please visit dar.org. This is the DAR Today podcast.